Every night, just before the town went quiet, one house kept its light on. It wasn't the biggest house or the newest. It sat near the edge of town where the road narrowed and the sidewalks thinned into gravel. Most people passed it without thinking. But if you were out late enough, you noticed the window. Always the same one. Always warm. Always on. No one knew exactly why. Some thought it was habit. Others thought it was loneliness. A few believed it was simply forgetfulness. But over time, the light became something more than an explanation. It became a signal. When the days were heavy, people noticed it more. Daniel noticed it on a night when he didn't want to go home. The air had turned cold early that year, the kind that settles into your coat and stays. He walked slower than usual, hands tucked into his pockets, steps crunching softly on the pavement. The town was already quiet, most windows dark, most lives turned inward. Then he saw the light. It glowed through thin curtains, steady and patient, not bright, not demanding, just there. Daniel slowed. He didn't know the people who lived there. I had never spoken to them, but he'd passed this house enough times to recognize it, enough to trust it in a way you trust things that never change. He continued walking, but the light stayed with him. At home, Daniel sat in the dark longer than usual. He didn't turn on the television, didn't reach for his phone. He just sat, listening to the quiet settle around him. His thoughts drifted the way they often did at night, to things he hadn't said, to choices that had felt small at the time, but had shaped everything afterward, to the sense that life had moved forward without asking whether he was ready. Eventually he stood and turned on a lamp. The room warmed instantly, shadows softened, the space felt less empty. And without quite deciding to, Daniel left the light on. The next night he noticed something as he walked home. Two houses now held their glow a little longer. One was his. The other stood across the street, a soft yellow square in the darkness. It continued. A light on here, another there. Nothing dramatic, nothing coordinated. Just a few homes choosing not to rush the night. No one talked about it, but people felt it. Walks grew slower. Windows stayed uncovered. The town seemed to exhale. One evening, a storm moved in without warning. Wind rattled branches, rain slicked the roads, and the power flickered. When the lights went out, the darkness felt heavier than usual. But candles appeared, lanterns, battery-powered lamps placed carefully near windows. The glow returned. Daniel stood at his window and looked out. The town wasn't bright, but it was present. Each small light said the same quiet thing. You're not alone. Not tonight. The power returned later, but something had already changed. From then on, the light stayed on, longer. Not every house, not every night. Just enough to matter. Years later, when Daniel moved away, he carried the habit with him. In a different town, on a different street, he left a light on near the window, and sometimes, walking home late, someone else would notice it.